Birmingham has been in a state of crisis as severe lack of funding to the council has left vital public services unable to function in their basic capacity. Adding pressure are continued strikes from Binmen as they recently rejected a deal from the city council. A strike by bin workers in Birmingham is set to continue after the latest pay offer by the city council was overwhelmingly rejected. It follows a month-long standoff between members of the Unite Union and the Labour-run Austerity as bin bags and fly-tipped rubbish have piled high on the streets. Now, of course, we've had voices from the usual suspects attacking the workers. This is failed Tory candidate on multiple occasions, might I add, Sebastian Payne.
Well, it's all starting to look a bit 1970s at the moment. If you can think back of the rubbish bags piled high in Leicester Square, which kind of was symbolic of the winter of discontent, which then obviously created a lot of problems for the Labour government. Birmingham now has 23,000 tonnes of uncollected rubbish, and Angela Rayner has called in army planners to try and help them solve it. We'll see if they have to pull in the army full time. But the Telegraph tomorrow warns that this may well spread, as we saw in the late 1970s, to teachers, NHS workers, civil servants, university staff could all walk out over pay conditions.
Many of whom had big pay rises recently under the Labour government, to be fair, did they not? And obviously people want to start to lower wage inflation to bring down overall inflation. So this is part of the
I think...
Of course, the corporate media are trying to compare this to the 70s. But the problems of Birmingham began because of Tory austerity. And it was also nice of the host to say that, well, workers have had a big pay rise. I mean, I don't know what planet she's living on. We have another clip. This time it's former Labour Minister Caroline Flint.
I just don't see how, to be honest, Unite the Union think this is going to do them any favours with the public. From what I understand, the councillors of Birmingham have agreed a plan to reduce some of the services, some of the jobs they're redesigning. They're offering all the workforce a chance to retrain. Nobody's going to lose their job. And I really think, in the interests of public health, in the interests of actually recognising the reality, I think this is a bad move by Unite the Union.
It's also worth noting that Angela Rayner called for Unite to accept the deal.
Well, the bin situation in Birmingham is appalling, and I urge Unite to get round the table, and they can't be blocking lorries. The lorries that are going out, there is an agreement to make sure that those bins are collected, despite the dispute, have to be allowed to do their job. And I'm determined to work with the local leaders. I stand ready to support them. It is a local dispute and the leaders are in control of that. But if they need me as Secretary of State, I won't hesitate to be on hand, and will support them in that endeavour. But I urge Unite to get round the table and to get the deal.
Now, why won't the workers accept the deal? Might it be because the deal is a pay cut? The offer does not protect from £8,000 pay cuts. Striking Birmingham bin workers have today rejected the council's totally inadequate offer. Hundreds of workers, members of Unite, the UK's leading union, voted overwhelmingly to reject the deal, which still includes substantial pay cuts for workers. The offer also did not address potential pay cuts for 200 drivers. A deal in which the city council thinks this is adequate. A deal that they won't protect an £8,000 pay cut. Kevin, as someone who is a Birmingham resident, meaning, you're an excellent person to be speaking on this, apparently bin workers should just accept a pay cut.
I don't even know where to start. Sebastian Payne, a person who has not been to the city and couldn't give a damn about it, should shut his mouth. Angela Rayner is a Deputy Prime Minister and working class person, is a class traitor and should also shut up. A person threatening to bring the army in against workers. I mean, does she want to be remembered as a genuinely evil person? I don't know. The council have played this about as poorly as they possibly can. And it does actually call into question whether the council are in control or not. Because for those who don't know, the wider context of this is that in the wake of massive gender-based pay complaints, which are absolutely legitimate because women were being underpaid by the city council for decades and decades, even going back to before we were technically existed as Birmingham City Council. It was West Midlands, and then before that was Warwickshire County Council. That's how far back it goes. The council is billions of pounds in debt. And so we have a series of nationally appointed administrators who essentially are running the day-to-day policy. The overall overarching policy is being set by council leaders like John Cotton, the leader of the council, but the administrators are the ones essentially trying to enforce austerity on the city. Even after we've had massive increases in council tax, they're not even providing basic services. And this will go beyond just the evisceration of so many people in waste disposal industries, because they're literally reevaluating every position that the city council employs. Although, of course, the councillors themselves just voted through a 5% pay rise. So, that's an interesting little juxtaposition. Where they found that money from, I don't know. The initial problem was with what's called WRCOs, which is waste and recycling coordination officers, which we are being told was not necessary as a position. So why they ever existed, I'm not entirely sure. And like you said, this is now spread to the drivers of the vehicles themselves. The council are looking for any way to try and undermine and eviscerate their own workforce, which will lead to worse services overall. It's not just that we'll have fewer people doing it, it's that people won't want to do it. They've been undermined consistently. The police are now using strongman tactics against trade union officials on the picket line, and they're threatening to use the army against them. This is dystopian. It genuinely is. And the council they seem intent on trying to appeal to nobody. They've taken the Labour Council have taken their comms directives, it seems, from the National Party, in that they seem to want to do everything they possibly can to undermine their own supporters in the city.
What's it like on the ground there? Let me ask you that first.
It's not great, although it has slightly improved in recent days. There have been some collections, albeit it's scab labour, so I don't even want to say it has improved. But there has been some collection in some places. But as we've seen, it's gone from 17,000 to 21,000, and now 23,000 is the number in thousands of tons of waste that's on the city. The rat problem is significant and increasing. And even worse than that, the council have decided to do the worst thing possible in terms of combating the rodent infestations, because previously the council had extermination teams and pest control teams that would deal with this for free, regardless of whether you were a public tenant or a private tenant, or indeed homeowner. You could ring the council up and they would come round and deal with it, because it's a health and safety issue for everybody in the local area, of course, because rats don't just stay in one place, they go everywhere, and they're a public health complaint or a problem. Whereas now the council are charging £24.60 for every single household that wants a person to come round and deal with their pest control problems. So at a time when we're having a booming rat problem, where we've had rats caught that were 2 feet in length, the size of a cat, the council are now charging people to deal with that problem.
Isn't the bigger problem here not the council itself? Obviously, the council aren't making the best decisions, but really it's down to the fact that obviously we've had 14 years of Tory austerity.
Yeah.
And the Labour Party are continuing it.
Yeah.
Essentially, and this isn't necessarily defending the council, given that you told me that they've given some council workers pay increases, while they won't obviously, well, they're proposing pay cuts for bin workers. But at the end of the day, the council has a budget, and that's been set by the national government. Now, the Labour Party could come in and say, we're going to make a clean break from the Conservatives, who have basically destroyed local councils by underfunding, and we're going to put a huge cash injection to alleviate the problems. What they're doing is basically, we're going to take the exact same austerity measures as the Conservatives, and what we're also going to do is offer pay cuts to union workers and then blame them for not doing it. So rhetorically, it's the same as the Conservatives as well. They're not even saying, well, we stand with the workers, we want better deal for the workers, but also continuing austerity. It's like they've now adopted the exact same tactics, the exact same rhetoric from the Conservatives, especially talking about bringing in the army, which is the biggest form of unionisation scabbing practices that exist.
Yeah, absolutely. They've taken the same policies and route as the Tory party because they are the Tory party.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah.
That's all they are at this point. I understand from a practical point of view why they don't want to just give wads of cash to individual administration, to individual councils across the country, because that's unfair on other parts of the country that have not had this problem and not had to deal with it. Although I would argue, as a socialist Labour Party, they should probably just be generally increasing the block grants given to local city and county councils. But even if they don't want to do that, what they could have done is offered a regular loan to the city, in order that the massive pay complaint issue that we've had over the last decade could have been staggered over the course of time, rather than having the malfeasance, the governmental malfeasance of decades of previous, mainly Labour but occasionally Tory and Tory Lib Dem coalition, councils that have built up for this city being dropped on us like an individual bombshell in the course of one fiscal term. What you could have had is that staggered over 10 or 20 years with a government loan, and that wouldn't have cost the taxpayer anything in the long run, or should I say the national taxpayer in the long run. And the Birmingham taxpayer wouldn't have had to deal with these just ridiculous, backward, archaic measures. And it sort of leads me to the idea that I've expressed before, that Sharon Graham, the leader of the Unite Union that are currently the head of this strike, why are you affiliated to the Labour Party? You've literally got John Cotton, the leader of the council, who's technically a Unite member, currently trying to undermine you. You have a Labour national government, which is threatening the sword of Damocles of bringing in the army to override your workers. Why are you affiliated to them? Why are you paying money to a party that is hurting you and your members? You are paying to remain in an abusive relationship, and it should stop.
I think they still believe that they have a seat at the table, and they feel like, oh, if we were to stop our fund, they don't. They absolutely don't. But that's what they think, right?
Yeah.
If we stop our funding, we disaffiliate. They think, one, that will mean Labour will be even harsher on unions because they don't need to appease them. Something I reject, by the way, because they're clearly they're antagonistic to unions anyway.
Yeah.
So they're just taking free money. And the second idea behind it is, well, if we disaffiliate from the party, then we're going to have no say. And again, I push back on that because where are we at the moment? They have no say, and they're being bullied by the Labour Party. I think they probably would actually have far better political capital backing another party at this point and saying, just like how we say, don't vote for the Labour Party because we need to sort of punish them at the ballot box. It's not like, for me, who I voted Green, it's not that I think they're going to get into government, but I want them to have more seats and the Labour Party have less seats, and they might go, oh, fuck, we're losing votes to the left. Yeah. Maybe if the unions backed a smaller party and threaten them financially, actually use the backbone with all the members and the money they have, but they're not doing that.
Well, exactly. What voice do they have right now? The party they have funded is in the government of both the Birmingham City Council and nationally. You have a West Midlands mayoralty as well under Labour, and you can't get anything. You can't get any movement. They are trying not to just give your members a pay rise. They want the pay you've already negotiated with them years ago. They don't want you to just instantly fire people. And by the way, the quote you had there from the council, that Seb Payne had from the council about them not losing jobs, is not true. They are starting a redundancy negotiations, and notices have been sent out to hundreds of members so far. So they're just trying to sack people. They actually are trying to. It's not a matter of they're going to retrain people, whatever the hell that even means. There are no jobs for them to go to. The idea that the Labour Party represents Labour in any way whatsoever is a ridiculous, disgusting joke.
Let the party die. Let the party die.
Yeah, well, it's not even that they're just dying. They're killing themselves. You've seen through things like the getting rid of the pensioner tax credit, also winter fuel payment, or the attacking of disability benefits, or indeed the way they're dealing with the trade unions, not just in Birmingham, but in Birmingham specifically to this story. They're eviscerating their own support. Why would anyone vote for the Labour Party now? If you want to vote for the Tory party, Reform are right there.
Well, if you guys watching want to help, you can, as there is a bin strike fund. So if you want to support them, you can do so. If any of you do want to contribute, then the details are there.
Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.